Good morning. Welcome to the Premium Public Video Forecast discussion for Friday, September 19th, 2025. Before we begin, you might hear in the background a lot of noise. They're trying to take down, one of my neighbors is trying to take down a very large old tree that has died. It's not like it's brand new or anything. And it is very, very loud. So I've tried to reduce the sound of that process. So if you could hear it, then imagine what it's like to actually live next to this right now, which started at 7 a.m. this morning, which I'm sure a lot of my other fellow neighbors very much love at 7 o'clock in the morning on a Friday. But at the very least, at least it's not 7 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday, right? So I do apologize if you hear a lot of noise in the background. Not much I can really do about it. First of all, let's talk about viruses. This is from the CDC and Johns Hopkins public health analysis. And again, I like to share this because, much like when I grew up watching shows like the Weather Channel, they used to show this type of stuff. I think it's very important just so, a lot of people come here for meteorology, but hey, other science sources as well. And the good news is that so far, virus levels are low. We are seeing an increase in COVID, but the flu and RSV are low. I did ask about stomach viruses. Pretty much nothing that is too aggressive, but as always with kids back to school, you know how it works. It's like a petri dish. So good luck out there, all you young parents out there dealing with, the kids going to school for the first time and interacting with all that stuff. But the good news is that so far so good in the early fall. So that is that data. Meanwhile, tropical Atlantic is finally getting a little bit more active. Again, nowhere near what we normally see for this time of year, where we're at the peak and it gets very impressive. Right now, we have a couple tropical waves. This one ran into a lot of dry area. It was watched, but that is just getting ripped apart and no longer really supported. We have this tropical wave here that we're going to be watching. And then here we have Gabrielle. Gabrielle finally redeveloped some nice convection after basically spinning through portions of the Central Atlantic completely exposed. And look, there were some questions as to whether this thing was really producing 50-mile-per-hour winds. There was no convection. There was barely any sign of a thunderstorm with this low pressure system. But now this morning we are starting to see that convection firing. But where is the center? Well, let's take a look. It is on the very western edge of this area of thunderstorm. So a lot of your tropical storm force winds are focused right here, and then your low-level circulations here. So the whole structure is kind of slanted and disturbed. And the reason why it's slanted and disturbed is because you see this feature right here. This is vertical wind shear, which is basically tearing apart the storm. So when you have a tropical low, you want everything vertically stacked, because then the warm air comes in at the ocean, gets lifted, rises, and then expels out at the top via anticyclonic circulation. That is your warm core circulation. When you have the vertical wind shear, what happens is that it gets slanted this way, right? Or this way, depending on the shear. And when that happens, it kind of chokes out the engine. So that's essentially what you're seeing here, is that the engine is getting choked. And as a result, you're not seeing any type of steady intensification. Now, as this lifts northward, it will intensify. And the forecast from the NHC is for this to eventually become a hurricane. Why is that the case? Well, let's take a look at some of the model guidance here. And what I want to do is show you the precipitable water values. And this is why we're seeing what we're going to see. You see here, this is the jet stream, polar jet stream right here. And right here is Bermuda, that little dot right there. And what's going to happen is that this is going to push northward. It's going to get trapped in the steering currents between the Western Atlantic Ridge and the trough, right? So this has nowhere to go but to the east of Bermuda and out in the Atlantic. It will intensify because the northern side of this structure of the tropical system will become enhanced. So basically you're enhancing the outflow. So you're making the exhaust stronger. And so if you can make the exhaust stronger, you can make the whole circulation stronger. So that's why we're going to see Gabrielle intensify before it gets kicked out. In fact, it's going to be the strongest it could possibly be before it starts to interact with a polar front and transition to an extratropical low pressure system. But by that time, it's going to be turning to the north and the northeast and away from us, so no threat. There is no threat over the next 7 days to the United States. But what about the next 10 days? Okay, I want to touch on this because I know people are going to make a video about it and go crazy and get scared. So we have the signs of a tropical wave that could interact around the Bahamas and potentially develop. We're talking about 7 to 10 days out. And the model guidance has been hinting at this. So let me make this very clear. Until you get a low-level circulation, any forecast is kind of, extremely questionable and not to be trusted. What I will say about this is that climatologically speaking, if I was to look for a tropical low pressure system to develop, I would look towards the Bahamas, the Caribbean, and I'd keep an eye on the Gulf Coast, especially this year with the Cape Verde season basically getting killed by a lot of the dry air and shear that is in place. With that being the case, be aware that, look, we're in that time of year. But I wouldn't trust, and this is the European, King Euro, all that stuff. Yeah, it could produce some silly nonsense too. Okay, and that's why when you look at this, you have to understand what the model is saying. What the model is essentially saying is like, hey, it's that time of year, we have a tropical wave, it could actually potentially develop. And if you get enough development, it could become rather interesting, especially got into the Gulf of Mexico or Gulf of America, whatever you want to call it. I don't care. The Gulf. Okay, let's just go the Gulf. If it gets into the Gulf, there's that tree. If it gets into the Gulf, it's going to deal with a lot of warm water. And if you have favorable conditions along with it, it could be interesting. But until we actually get a tropical disturbance in place, there's no reason to get all worked up over it. So again, we'll keep an eye on it, see if there's anything that pops up in the long range. In the meantime, it's going to remain pretty quiet around here over the next 7 days or so. Not much really to worry about. So that's certainly some good news. You can see a nice deep trough here over the Mississippi River Valley in the subtropical jet stream. Nice ridge in the polar jet stream. And that means it's going to be quiet around here and very, very pleasant. So let's take a look at some of the observations. You have a nice northwesterly flow in place around 5 to 10 miles per hour. Clear skies throughout much of the region. Temperatures in the mid 60s over the interior, upper 60s to lower 70s in your suburbs, lower to mid 70s in your urban areas. See the weather tap, radar and surface map. Not much going on, just high pressure and control. Very, very nice. And on the visible satellite picture, plenty of clear skies. You can see this disturbance, this little trough dropping in. Originally, I was thinking it could spark off an isolated shower, but the mid-levels are so dry that I'm just going to go with scattered cloud cover for today. And there isn't much in the way of lifting here. You can see that with the lack of any type of colder cloud tops, they're pretty warm. So as a result, I'm not expecting much but a few scattered clouds dropping through. Then you got this feature way back here over the plains that we'll watch out for by, let's say, Monday evening and Tuesday. So it is going to be pretty quiet going forward. And take a look at the 500 millibar PVA. What we have here is rising 500 millibar height. So this trough is leaving. This one's kind of meandering out here in the plains. And so with the rising 500 millibar heights through the weekend, it's going to provide some pretty quiet weather. Now notice in the subtropical jet stream, you got this little disturbance here. Yes, but not much moisture to lift. So at most you get a few scattered clouds and that's about it. Now by the time we get to Monday, well, now we start to get this trough coming in. You get a little bit more warm air transport, so a little bit more increase in cloud cover, but no sign of any type of precipitation. The next time we really have to worry about precipitation is really on Wednesday with a stronger cold front that moves through. You can see support in a positively tilted trough from both the polar and subtropical jet stream. So this could feature a cold front with a little bit more moisture transport supporting scattered showers throughout the region. But again, I don't see any sign of any type of major storms or anything of that nature in any time in the near future. And let me just show you the moisture transport here on Monday. And the same thing at 700 millibar PVA, not PVA, moisture transport, relative humidity. So what is this telling me? Well, leading up to the weekend, notice we got a lot of dry air, right? Which is why I'm expecting pretty quiet weather conditions all the way through the weekend, even with that shortwave into subtropical jet stream, because, yeah, there's some lifting, but what is it lifting? Nothing, because there's barely any moisture. You're talking about relative humidity below 10%. So, very, very nice weekend on the way. Then on Monday, you can see moisture coming in, but I'm not expecting much in the way of showers because there isn't much in the way of moisture here. So really, we have to get all the way until we get to Tuesday night into Wednesday, where we have a nice cold front moving through, and that is where we'll have the best potential for some showers. So let's dive into this forecast for today. A trough moves through, a few scattered clouds. Temperatures range from the mid to upper 70s over the northern interior, lower to mid 80s on the I-95 corridor, and upper 70s to lower 80s along the coast. For tonight into tomorrow morning, high pressures in control. Look for clear skies. Look for low temperatures in the upper 40s over the northern interior, lower to mid 50s in your suburbs, mid to upper 50s in your urban areas. For tomorrow afternoon, scattered cloud cover, beautiful weather conditions. Look for high temperatures in the lower to mid 70s over the interior and along the coast, mid to upper 70s on the I-95 corridor. Again, wonderful weather conditions for any outdoor activities for Saturday and for Sunday. Look for low temperatures ranging from the lower to mid 50s over the northern interior and in your suburbs, mid to upper 50s in your urban areas. High temperatures ranging from the mid to upper 60s on Long Island, upper 60s to lower 70s everywhere else. Again, if you have any outdoor activities, going to a baseball game, football game, what have you, it is going to be absolutely wonderful out. Now, on Monday, we'll have increasing clouds, but will remain dry. Look for low temperatures ranging from the lower to mid 50s, high temperatures ranging from the upper 60s to lower 70s along the immediate coast, lower to mid 70s everywhere else. On Tuesday, a trough will approach with a few isolated showers, but for the most part, mix of sun and clouds. Look for low temperatures in the lower to mid 60s. Notice the warmer low temperatures because there's more moisture in the atmosphere. High temperatures will range from the mid to upper 70s on Long Island, upper 70s to lower 80s along the coast, lower to mid 80s everywhere else. On Wednesday, Tuesday night into Wednesday, our cold front will slip through with periods of showers. Could be an embedded thunderstorm in here, but I'm not seeing anything severe at this time. But certainly scattered showers around the region into Wednesday afternoon. Look for low temperatures to range from the lower to mid 60s over the northern interior, mid to upper 60s along the coast. High temperatures ranging from, because of the cloud cover and showers, lower to mid 70s over the northern interior, mid to upper 70s along the coast. Then on Thursday, high pressure builds in, a few isolated showers in the morning, followed by clearing skies in the afternoon. Look for low temperatures ranging from the upper 40s to lower 50s over the northern interior, lower to mid 50s in your suburbs, mid to upper 50s in your urban areas. High temperatures ranging from the upper 60s to lower 70s over the northern interior, lower to mid 70s along the coast. And next Friday, high pressure in complete control with clear skies and cool temperatures. Low temperatures ranging from the mid to upper 40s over the northern interior, upper 40s to lower 50s in your suburbs, lower to mid 50s in your urban areas. High temperatures in the upper 60s to lower 70s over the interior and along the coast, mid 70s on the I-95 corridor. That is your forecast discussion for today. Have a wonderful weekend, and as always, stay safe out there.